Good morning all and welcome to the International Cluster to Cluster Meeting 2021. Welcome to all cluster representatives to this international community which gathered today and which will work and meet during the day and hopefully afterward. I'm Valeria Bandini, head of the Europe and International Area of ARTER, that is the Emilia-Romagna Agency for Territorial Development, Sustainability, Innovation, Entrepreneurship, Internationalization and Attractiveness, and Cluster Promotion and Development. I'm particularly proud and honored to open our global matchmaking event this year, organized in collaboration with the TCI Network, the Enterprise Europe Network, and the Emilia-Romagna Cluster Community. The event is promoted by Emilia-Romagna region, represented today by Mr. Ruben Sacerdoti, who will be our first speaker. Welcome, Ruben. Let me also welcome our distinguished guests, namely the President of TCI, Merete Nielsen, Patricia Valdenebro, the CEO of TCI, who will moderate the two talk sessions, and our speakers, David Fernandez Torreros and Sauro Vicini, Celia Gavo and Ola Svedin. Welcome and thank you all for being with us today. Our Cluster to Cluster event is at its third edition and for the second time in digital mode. In fact, last year, in 2020, we decided not to give up despite the pandemic, and we decided to switch to the digital format. It was a challenge, we had to work hard, but we took the risk and it turned out to be a positive experience, very much appreciated by participants. Somebody are with us again this year, and we have heard also copied by others. So here we are, and we hope that we will replicate the good results of last year. I don't want to go through the program, but I would like to remind you the motto, rebooting growth. And we consider that clusters have a role on this, and we are fully convinced that joining forces, exchanging and collaborating will be of benefit for all. The two live talks this morning and early this afternoon, as well as the bilateral meeting sessions, are aimed to reflect on how to reboot growth and set the ground for working together. I'd like also to mention the three priority topics chosen for this year edition: digital transformation, green and blue growth, arts and culture resilience. You can see here that we are fully in line with the EU strategic trajectories, and we would like, in fact, to contribute to that. I stop here with my short welcome and introduction. But let me thank our colleague from ARTER that have made this possible, and TCI Network friends for their essential contribution to the event. With no further delay, I give then the floor to Mr. Ruben Sacerdoti, Director of the Regional Department for Business Internationalization and Foreign Direct Investment Attraction of Emilia-Romagna region. Ruben, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Valeria. Good morning to everybody. And first of all, let me thank you, ARTER, Enterprise European Network, and TCI Network for having organized this International Cluster to Cluster meeting, once again online. And also, I think it's very important to have chosen this title, Rebooting Growth, because in fact we are facing now a great challenge that we have to tackle, no? So including cluster in this new phasing of the economic recovery. Cluster, in fact, the DNA of Emilia-Romagna economic and industrial fabric, with the presence of locally organized industrial district, which dates back to the 70s of the last century, mainly composed by SMEs competing and at the same time collaborating according to the so-called Emilia-Romagna model. Obviously, this regional model evolved to face the global competition, the high rate of technological innovation, and the merging of different social challenges from the past, making Now a quick step into the new century, we jump to the year 2015, when the regional government of Emilia-Romagna launched a cluster initiative to promote the setup of several clusters based on the economic and industrial main specialization of the region. Emilia-Romagna cluster are today private associations composed by actors of, we can say, quadruple helix, including research laboratories, companies, startups, training organization, representatives of the civil society. They count today more than 600 active members. Cluster have, in our view, a strategic role in connecting members, promoting joint actions of collective interest, from the definition of technological priorities to innovative and modernize the regional industry and its main productive sectors, to the identification of the skill needs of companies, the design and implementation of strategic projects, connecting different actors and promoting the international outreach of the regional actors. In Europe, we are facing in this month a new path of recovery. The latest statistics of our region, of our regional foreign trade, updated to the first quarter of 2021, already show the all positive sign of a recovery of the Emilia-Romagna exports, an increase in per capita export, where our region is leader in Italy, and in the current account balance. I'd like to underline that Emilia-Romagna alone makes up to 50% of the Italian trade balance. But these data are not alone are not enough. They may prove ephemeral. We must ensure a new recovery that is able to incorporate the pandemic effects, ensure the structuring of the new global supply chains, monitor the process in transition, digital transition, environmental transition, and also the definition of a new globalization. And so to discuss together these new challenges that we have conceived these C2C events, why the title Rebooting Growth? We are not thinking about just a restart, so just a way to start again from the past, but we are thinking about something completely different. If I quote from a dictionary, reboot is, in the computing language, to cause a computer to execute its boot process, effectively resetting the computer and causing the operating system to reload, especially after a system or power failure. I think we are exactly in the same situation of a computer that needed to be rebooted. Today, the economic recovery needs the action of cluster organization as main actors of their local ecosystem, also to build international connections for the benefit of their members, considering that the global scenario has completely changed and new answers are needed. Here in rebooting growth, cluster play, I think, a fundamental role in our mind that in our mind cannot be replaced. It will be very interesting to listen later today during the talks how cluster representatives in Europe are looking at the current situation and at the future. Joining forces at the local level, we are, as we are doing, and collaborating internationally, exchanging and working together. This is a key to face the current situation of our companies and societies are encountering. Emilia-Romagna and our cluster are ready to build international partnerships to face the coming economic, environmental, and societal challenges. So thank you very much for your participation, and I wish you a fruitful working day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you very much for your words, encouraging us to keep on working on our cluster-to-cluster promotion efforts. And I would like to give the floor now to the president of the TCI network, Merete Nielsen. Merete, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valeria Bandini, and thank you so much to the Emilia-Romagna region for supporting this event again. Thank you for your team, Valeria. I know you worked late many evenings to make this happening. It was a huge risk to take last year, and you did it again. And it's so nice to see the global support coming from so many areas. I can see the participants here, so it's north and south and east and west. So that's a very strong signal for the interest of the conference and the interest in rebooting growth. That is the topic of this conference. So great to see everybody again, and also for the new ones joining and joining the global connections and discussions on how can we reboot and how can you bring your clusters into the game with where you come from. So I'm the president from a global network. We go back more than 20 years. We organize public authorities, cluster practitioners, researchers, academics, basically all interested in clusters, innovation networks, and competitiveness. So for us, it's also a very important topic today, and we keep on also on our side to keep up exploring different options around networking and collaboration. So let me start by sharing my presentation for today. Yeah, so good to see the interest in tapping into this opportunity and really using another online option, that we are not that tired of online opportunities, but this is still an opportunity to connect globally and to keep up exploring ways of collaborating across the world. As Ruben so rightly pointed out, we will not need just to start again. We will need to reboot, we will need to rethink. We can see that clusters done this already. And I will share a bit some of the stories and the interest we've seen from around the world, how clusters help to support the journey on how we reboot growth to clusters. So clusters are really all over. We can see they come in many different forms and shapes. Some are more business-led, some are more led by public authorities, some are more led by researchers. We can see that some use the cluster word, have the cluster as part of their name, but we can also just see that others work like clusters, but might use other words like a network or partnership or a hub. But we can see really that this area is mushrooming, as I call it. Many things is happening. We estimate currently in Europe alone, we have 2,500 cluster organizations. That's real people working with the cluster challenges. But it is a global trend, and it's so great to see so many coming from cluster organizations and cluster communities around the world today for this event. I think the reason why we can see this is the area is really growing is that some of the challenges we face, and I think the pandemic really underlined this, that the challenges of tomorrow, where we really don't have the answers, here we really need to collaborate. And here we can really collaborate to understand what are the new business model, how can we try to tackle the challenges. So it's basically that no single company, no matter how smart it might be, no municipality, no organization, no university can solve the challenges alone. We need to cooperate on this. And for me, it doesn't matter if you call it a cluster, a network, or partnership, but it is really this future way of collaborating. We can see so many are doing, and this is also why this organizing principle is really pushing so many agendas forward. It's measured a lot of data is put into it already. The European Commission done a lot already, so you can tap into that, but we can really see that companies in clusters are more innovative, they are more productive, and they're also more international, and perhaps after today also even more global. So we see clusters as a neutral platform for collaboration, and it is about tackling the challenges of tomorrow that we cannot handle on our own. We see the structures around clusters becoming increasingly complex. In the good old days, we talked about clusters as the triple helix structures with companies, knowledge institutions, and public authorities. But as the cluster concept is growing, we can see more and more stakeholders joining because they see the value of this, so more business organization, financial actors, investors joining, and also many working with innovation or business promotion that can tap into the cluster structure. So we also see some of the cluster structures today are quite large and basically just growing over the years. When we look into the toolbox of clusters and why clusters really have been a very efficient tool throughout the pandemic and are still a very important tool to make this rebooting, to define what will happen next, we can see that cluster organizations and clusters are different because the sector they come from are different. The classical services in clusters are perhaps more about matchmaking, bringing companies together. It might be about running innovation projects. It can be about creating access to finance. But we can see also that today more and more clusters work into areas of transformation because the pressure for digitalization, circular economy, Industry 4.0 is just really being pushed a lot from many sides. And clusters are a really good way of organizing it, but also really putting things basically into action. So we see also today many clusters as operators. They get funding to make different things happening, basically. All of that hopefully will create some resilience. It's also been a huge topic that we discussed during the pandemic. And we can see some of the companies in clusters have been more resilient to the challenges and the hit that the pandemic has caused us. In CCI Network, we try to be very connected to our members. In the beginning of the year, we asked about where do you see the change? Where's the need for rebooting? What is happening in your region, in your cluster, in your sector? They gave us different kind of feedback. One overall is really this topic of digital transformation. That this has been pushed, of course, because of the pandemic, and there's been time to experiment with technologies and see the potential in different sectors. Today I bring you a very nice example from Taiwan. We know they've been very efficient using digital tools in both handling the pandemic, but they also in Taiwan, they realized that SMEs might need help to tackle this. So digitalization was speed up, but it's also, the companies will need help. So even though the tools are there, they will also need help to digest it and bring it into their sectors. So digital policy really needs to consider the needs in different industries. And this great industry technology research institute, and though they're joining us today, so that's very nice, they analyzed different industries and saw that the needs are different. So we might call them SMEs, but it's not one size fits all. So you really need to analyze in the manufacturing, in the service sector, agricultural sector, what are the different needs for digital instruments and digital tools in those sectors. So here clusters can play a role in organizing it because they have the sector-specific insights and can help to make it happening. One other trend that also a topic for this conference is the one on green transition, circular economy. I think some of us have been quite concerned, that this pandemic hitting us was going back to the black economy and not going forward to making this transition and pushing more for green transition, circular economy. So also for TCI Network, this has of course been a topic of interest and a concern. So we really spend a lot of time monitoring this area and also digging out a best practice example. So in the beginning of the year, we organized the TCI Green Lab, and this great case from Green Tech Ruhr came up. The ones not knowing Europe that well, I can say that Ruhr, it was back in the days really the heart of steel and coal in Europe. And they, over the years, turned this into more high-tech and more service-driven industrial area. They also saw a need to do even more. So back in 2016, they gathered almost 200 members from companies, research institutions, and educational institutions to organize different kind of activities to push more networking, bringing in more knowledge, often training, speed dating. They actually have their own digital tool, also speed dating companies in the rural area. And they were so good at it, they even won a prize last year, being one of the best in Europe on promoting and developing green markets. Also in TCI Network, we did an ebook together with my organization in Denmark to understand what is driving new greener normal. We can see that cluster organizations see that green transition is a way of reigniting the growth, and cluster organization really on many different areas played a role in reigniting growth and bringing knowledge, helping companies to develop new products and new services to make the shift for many companies. Then another area, and this is not blood, this is a heart. So we can see that the recovery also, and I think the whole pandemic really showed us the notion of compassion, of helping each other, of reaching out. We also saw that many cluster organizations say, yeah, we need to build a more sustainable, inclusive future. We need to think even more about societal challenges, so nobody's left behind, but everybody feels included also in our cluster communities. One really nice example is the one from the automotive cluster in Nuevo León in Mexico. So this is a CEO from Ternium, so one of the world's leading steel companies, and he's president of the cluster. And to him, being close to the local community is paramount to him. So it's not like they just, deliver workforce, but it's a lot about engaging with the local community and taking a social responsibility role. In the early days of the pandemic, they actually dedicated a lot of funding to build a hospital in the early days of pandemic to respond to the challenges. But they work very closely with the local community to create more sustainable growth. They invest in education programs, in cultural programs, sports. They have even a local library and different kinds of social events to create more local community feeling and to keep having a strong local feeling of connectedness. Here, the cluster played a key role again in adapting to both more digital, sustainable, and more also inclusive business model in that region. So another one, internationalization is also a key area for many TCI members. We have worked now with new strategies for internationalization because our value chains have been disrupted. We couldn't find the suppliers we were used to, so we had to rethink what is happening next. Some even spoke at some point about now it's all about global markets, but cluster organizations showed no, it's still a global world. We need to connect, and initiatives like the one you started last year and that we repeat again today show now we just need to think about digital ways of connecting and understanding what are our opportunities and how can we connect with ones both in our close regions, but also hopefully outside our own region. We can see that clusters play a different role on globalization. So compared to others working with internationalization, a cluster organization can help both to support more market-driven innovation, but also more innovation-driven internationalization. So this can be about having a better understanding of what kind of markets out there, what kind of partners are out there. So here the cluster-to-cluster collaboration is a quite good mechanism. It can help them to create access to partners abroad. It can be about initiating long-term research and innovation collaboration. This is something we've seen that really many cluster collaborations over the years started like a small project, 2 cluster organizations joining forces. They created more and more cluster collaboration, and this has fed into many long-term projects, either more research-oriented or more innovation-oriented or more market-driven. Again, here clusters do, as we see also today, joint partnerships with other, help to integrate as a strategic partner, help to co-organize activities, because internationalization is costly and you want to help your companies in the best manner. So on a final note, before starting the real conference, the virtual collaboration I think is here to stay. Many cluster organizations has really developed new virtual services. I think it's an important role that you take on to show your companies and your partners in your ecosystems that this is the way forward, even though we also long to meet in person. But there are so many good digital tools now. We need to keep that alive. We need to push that even more. I think you have an obligation, again, to show this to your companies. So, and I can see that booming also a lot, that more and more are using different digital tools to broaden their collaborations and partnerships. So this was a bit some of the trends and input we see from TCI Global, the cases and the trends on how we can reboot economy, how clusters are already undertaking it. And I hope you will make the most of this conference, and I hope that we have many, many good meetings and fruitful meetings that hopefully will lead to something long-term collaboration, and so we can find a way of rebooting our economy. Thank you.